Hello, welcome. I'm Charles Aite. The month of March recorded a significant jump in inflation to 19.4%, the highest since August 2009. This was influenced by increasing prices of foodstuffs, particularly oil and fat, water, cereal products and vegetables, as well as transport fares. They all recorded inflation rates higher than the national average. Samuel Kopna-Eneng is government statistician.
Rate of inflation for the month of March 2022 stood at 19.4. This literally means that compared to March 2021, prices of goods and services have gone up by 19.4%. That is between March 2021 and March 2022, prices of goods and services went up by 19.4%. On a month-on-month basis, we are seeing that prices of goods and services between the month of February 2022 and March 2022 went up by 4.0%. The change in prices on a year-on-year basis and on a month-on-month basis is the steepest that we've recorded over the period. Specifically, on a year-on-year basis, the difference of 3.7 percentage points, that is the 19.4% for the month of March 2022 and the 15.7% for the month of February 2022, is the highest since we started seeing an increase in rate of inflation between May and June 2021. On a month-on-month basis is the highest since January 2022, as we increase month-on-month inflation from 1.2 to 2.1%, showing a 0.9 percentage difference. And between January and February 2022, we saw a 0.3 percentage difference, and now we are seeing a 1.6 percentage difference between February 2022 and March 2022, indicating the steepest increase in the rate of inflation since we saw an upward trend in rate of inflation since our rebase figures.
Well, we're still with inflation because for the very first time in a while, the Bono Ahafo region recorded the highest rate of inflation of 23.3% in the country. Globally, inflation rates have been surging because of the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which has impacted negatively on cereals and grains, as well as the supply of fertilizer.
From a geographical perspective, we continue to see variations across the administrative regions, and for the first time we are seeing the Bronga Ahafo region recording the highest rate of inflation of 23.1% and the Upper East region recording the least inflation of 12.5%, suggesting that or indicating a more than 10 percentage point between the region with the highest inflation and the region with the lowest inflation. Upper West continue to record the highest food inflation, and Upper West continue to record the least non-food inflation. Focusing on inflation from the Bronga Ahafo region, which recorded an overall inflation of 23.1%, we identify food and non-alcoholic beverages, which had the highest weight of 3.2%, recording the highest inflation of 30.7%. And within the food domain, within the Bronga Ahafo region, we identify vegetables with a weight of 0.8%, which again has the highest weight across the different divisions within the food division category, recording the highest inflation of 47.2%.
And we shall peruse these figures in our subsequent bulletins when Daryl Kwao comes away with Business Live. But on the 1st of May, the government will fully implement the electronic transaction levy of 1.5%. The motive for this controversial levy, as it were, is to increase taxes to GDP and fund government initiatives. But there could be a risk for entrepreneurs and tech-based startups who say the levy will rip them off their profits. In this special report, I interrogate the impact the levy may cause young startups. Take a look. It's been 4 years since Selassie Jikunu founded the Delzi Shop, an e-commerce outlet with consumers mainly in the diaspora. But COVID came and her profits tanked.
We've been operating for the past 4 years now, and we've been providing or servicing mostly people in the diaspora with authentic Ghanaian beauty care products. So they visit our website and they place their order, we process it and then deliver it to them. So basically that's what we've been doing. We have a staff strength, before COVID we had a staff strength of about 7. But during COVID, we had to lay some of them off and now we're down to about 5.
Selassie may have survived the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic, but she fears the introduction of the 1.5% e-levy will prove tough for startups like hers that are heavily dependent on mobile money transactions.
We haven't been able to come up with how we're going to encourage our customers to still use our digital platform. I would say even before it has been accepted, clients have started telling us they will pay on delivery, whereas we have spent the past 2 to 3 years trying to encourage them to make payments even before delivery. It's like now we're taking 5 steps back after we've taken like 2 steps forward or something. So even last week it was very difficult for my staff and I, the sales lead. She just kept complaining about how now clients are insisting on cash. So it's like we're going back to the cash system, and then it's sort of making it look like efforts down the drain, putting together a website, investing so much money into technology and mobile payments and card payments, and now we have to revert to using cash. It's tough.
Whereas some economists have lauded the electronic transaction levy as a necessary evil, others insist the timing and form of the levy could cripple small enterprises like Selassie's that are heavily dependent on electronic transactions. But why and how? I put this question to Dr. John Kwachi, Director of Research at the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA.
We have consistently said that there are so many loopholes in our tax system, and we have, mentioned them. The exemptions is one, property taxes is one, trade taxes, misinvoicing of trade taxes, transfer pricing, money laundering, and then, of course, we have non-compliance. It's also another area, and there's been estimates, projections that say that if all these loopholes were to be plugged, we could add something like 10 percentage points, to the current, our tax to GDP ratio, which hovers just around 12%. But why these loopholes are not being plugged, that's something that I don't get it. Sometimes it takes a political will to be able to do these things. Because, for example, the tax exemptions bill has been before Parliament. It was placed before Parliament in 2019. I don't know whether it was withdrawn, but government then had the majority to be able to pass it, but it wasn't passed. Now I understand the new bill has been submitted to Parliament. I don't know how easy it's going to be to pass that bill. We have also suggested that this is the time that we should be looking at, companies that are making a lot of profit. Even in spite of COVID, in the context of COVID, the mining companies, the oil companies, the telcos, the banks, and everywhere in the world, countries are looking for booming sectors of the economy so that they can raise additional, tax from there. And we have suggested that government should also be doing the same, what we call windfall, tax. They could be temporary. It's not something that maybe you impose and then you leave it there forever. No. As and when the conditions improve, you can review them. You see. So this is the time that we should be looking at the booming sectors of the economy to try and raise more revenue. As for the e-levy, we have said that it amounts to multiple taxation, and therefore we would it's something that if the other things were being done, then that would not have been necessary.
It's going to be a cost that the business has to absorb. It means that our capital will dwindle, of course, but it would also mean that to be able to stay afloat, we either have to inject more capital or we have to look at other means of raising funding. Going for a bank loan is not an option, so don't ask me, because the bank policy rate is already off the roof and it's not a place we're interested in looking at, because cost of borrowing obviously has gone high. We're looking at other means like grant opportunities. There are lots of these grant funding agencies around that, are organizing acceleration programs for startups like my own, and so we've decided that we get more engaged in those areas, in that ecosystem, to see how we can raise some free but not so free, because obviously you have to dedicate your time and energy and put things in place. And so those are some of the options we're looking at. We've also discussed crowdfunding. But then again, when it comes to crowdfunding, there has to be a purpose, or there has to be impact. People need to be convinced as to why they should support your small business. And so we're trying to see how best we can work on our social impact, our environmental impact, because we sell organic natural products, and most of the ingredients that are used are natural, and so we're trying to see how best we can focus or throw more light on how environmentally friendly the products are and the kind of social impact the business will have on the community, so we can create a story around that and then do the crowdfunding. It's hard, it's a long journey. I don't know how soon we will get there, but I'm hopeful. I'm trying to be hopeful, even though it's tough, because when you look at the numbers, even when it hasn't been, it hasn't come into operation, but it has been passed as a bill, people are already, panicking, and they don't want to buy again. They want to pay when they see the product, and so that becomes a risk on the business.
At the receiving end of any increase in production or taxation isn't just consumers but also workers. Elam Kezia is sales lead of a startup heavily dependent on electronic transactions. The introduction of the levy, she fears, will slash the amount of online orders by half, putting her job at risk.
They don't want to pay the charges. They don't want to go through all those hell. Maybe a client is buying a product worth 400 cedi, and that 400 cedi, each 100 Ghana cedi, the e-levy is charging, I think, 1 cedi 50 pesos off. So before, the bank will also charge a fee for that. So you could see the amount of money that is going out of there. Yes. Before, if we are also going to withdraw, I think something will also be, yes. So they don't want to. It's going to stress most of our customers, and then we ourselves, as we selling to them, it's really going to stress us. It's going to take a long time before maybe some of them will understand. Because as I'm speaking to you now, most of them have gone to withdraw their monies from their Momo wallets because of the payment of the e-levy. Because if I'm sending you money, the government will charge me, MTN will charge me. When I'm withdrawing it too, they will definitely charge me for it. So I don't think it's going to help.
The Chamber of Telecommunications fear the implementation of the levy could be fraught with some challenges. I engaged its Chief Executive, Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe, on this development.
Responsibility lies on both sides. So we, as charging entities, have responsibilities, but the GRA also has some development that they're doing. There's a common platform that is going to be used to be able to do that. And so we will do our bit, and we are also very hopeful that the GRA would also do its bit to be able to deliver this. All right, briefly, there are concerns about a possible contrition rate of close to 20 to 30% when the e-levy gets into shape. The players within the telecom industry actually worried that this levy will indeed impact negatively on the use of mobile money in the country. Well, you see, so when the levy was announced in Parliament, you realize that we had mentioned the fact that there had been no engagement. And so post that, there's been a lot of engagement that have happened. We had issued a paper to the ministry, to Parliament, and we definitely, we've not lost sight of the fact that there could be unintended consequences. So our whole posture is, what do we do to ensure that, we can mitigate those unintended consequences? You have the examples of what happened in countries like Uganda, Tanzania, in other places where this kind of taxation has been passed, and we know how the impact has been. So government has taken some of the suggestions, recommendations we have made. Not all of them have been taken.
What were some of the recommendations? So, well, definitely the reduction in the rate was some of them. The issues of merchants. Merchant payments was also one of them. We thought that merchant payments were in the nascent stages, and this was not a time to also be applying the levies on that, and government could rather use that to rake in a lot more revenues. That was taking. We also, some of the issues that we raised were the issues of the cap. The industry itself operates on the cap. So once you're sending money to somebody beyond 1,000 cedis for MTN and Airtel Tigo money, who charge, the charge is fixed at 10 cedis. And so one of the recommendations we have been pushing to government was to also put a cap on the levy so far as that is concerned. We noticed in the final bill that was passed into law that there's no cap for mobile money, but we've seen that there's a cap. The minister has the right to introduce the cap. Yes, of which we have done a report to that. But Mr. Chikbe, in just under a minute, if you can, help us understand how you are prepping yourself up for a possible contrition rate should the e-levy come to force on the 1st of May.
Well, so a lot of things. So you notice that some of our members sometime last year, looking at all of that, did a reduction of 0.25%. And then also in the engagements that we're doing with the ministry and with GRA, some of the things that, the possible pitfalls that we are seeing, we're bringing them to the fore, and we're hoping that these engagements would lead to us being able to mitigate that.
As Ghanaians brace themselves for the e-levy to be implemented next month, which is the 1st of May, the GRA has outlined the transactions that will not be affected by the new tax policy. According to the authority, although the tax policy is to broaden the tax net, not all electronic transactions will come with a 1.5% tax rate. They include transfers for the payment of taxes, fees and charges on the Ghana.gov platform, electronic clearing of checks, specified merchant payments, transfers between principal master agent and agent accounts. But for entrepreneurs like Selassie, employing an innovative means of offsetting the cost regarding this levy can sustain small startups, at least for now. I'm Charles Aita reporting for Joy Business. Well, on tech business, we visit the billion-dollar marketplace of non-fungible tokens, popularly known as NFTs, to get to know why and how many creators, including our very own Paul Barris, are raking in millions of dollars. Henry Kobler is lead of tech firm Eyes of Africa, and he joins us. Henry, grateful that you could join us. For the purposes of our audience, what are NFTs and why are they becoming popular among creators in Ghana and around the world?
NFTs are exciting, and I'm always excited to see that people are getting into the practical aspects of cryptocurrency and blockchain. So when we talk about NFTs, I could give you like two examples. Ronaldo basically sold his image rights to Peter Lim. And so anytime anybody is using the image of Ronaldo, he basically gets to be paid, and Peter Lim basically gets majority of the shares of the image of Ronaldo. There are quite a number of things that are unique. I think some of those are unique. There are people that are creating unique artworks and all of that. Any of these are owned to the people that are the original creators. But how do you get to know that somebody really and originally owns this craft? That is what NFT is trying to do within the blockchain sector, where it's creating that originality and assigning that originality to things that are created by the creators or the owners. And so in simple terms, it is only given the leverage where you get to own what you have created, and you can sell it at any time that you want to any other person who gets to own the rights thereafter. There are split pointers within it. There are different contract laws which actually binds it. But the original point is that if I own something, I could relatively sell it on a marketplace, and somebody could just function that up and make some money out of it. There are people that are making money out of this through influence marketing. There are people that are directly selling their own NFTs on different markets across the globe.
Impressive, and of course you have just touched on how the marketplace works. But our very own pallbearers auctioned their art close to $1 million. How do they get the money? Especially when we see the fact that the engine of NFTs platforms is fueled by cryptocurrency, and we know the Central Bank of Ghana as well has deemed it illegal and unregulated.
Okay, thank you very much. So these guys relatively announced it on YouTube on the 27th of March that they wanted to get into NFTs, and so they were going into a collaboration with the Ukrainian PR community to be able to raise some level of funds for the Ukrainian war. And so by 7th of April, they had actually placed it on the marketplace, and so they actually auctioned it up. And then they had a company called the 3F Music buying it for $1 million. Now, at the time of buy and today, you could realize that even the cryptocurrency amount would have gone high, because when you're looking at the Ethereum value, as at 7th of April, and today you're realizing that now it's actually been past $1 million. It's almost about 1,100,000, right? So that's like a lot of money within the cryptocurrency market. Now, what does it tell us? It basically tells us that, just within a few months, because you've created something, you have something that is to your originality, you can relatively put it up for auction and sell. Now, this is not regulated directly or by Ghanaian Bank of Ghana or by any bank as well. The markets are there, they are regulated by whoever is auctioning them, and people get to buy them off the record. And so if they want to even get their money out today, they could decide that they want to just push the money to an account in the US. They could mint it out in Ghana. There's a platform in Ghana that is exchanging Ethereum for Ghana cedis. And so if these guys want $1 million right now, there's somebody in Ghana like PayFlax that could relatively pay them $1 million Ghana cedis and relatively just own the Ethereum. And so that's how the market is really becoming. The whole point is, yes, it's risky and it's unregulated, but people are making it. And the point I always make is that we don't have to sit for the market to determine the pace before we actually get regulations and otherwise to it. We can start looking at policies. We can start looking at a lot of dialogues, a lot of connections in terms of talks where we could look at, does NFT work? Do we have crafts in Ghana that we could sell? There are quite a number of things that are to the credits of Ghana. The Ghana Folklore Authority could even be looking at selling some of the Dinka symbols to raise money for the country. And those are the things that I'm looking at, creative people within the revenue generation models of the government really looking at, because these are pointers. Understand that they were selling the Dinka symbols or any other craft within the tourism sector and all of that as an image, we could be raising a lot of money for it. So yes, it's risky, it's unregulated, but there's a huge opportunity around it. The world is not going to wait for us to think, we will have to put anything out there. So we need to start putting ourselves there. The Bank of Ghana relatively has to start looking at dialogues with people that are within the industry. There are people that are in Ghana that are exchanging Ethereum or Bitcoins in terms of cryptocurrencies for physical monies. And I don't think it's actually illegal business, because they are paying their taxes and all of that. But we could be looking at the opportunities there. These guys had a good one. They've already donated $250,000 because the influence marketer to it was a Ukrainian PR community.
Yeah.
So $250,000 out of this amount is relatively going to them. And that's a country. Taking up $250,000 is a good deal for the Ukrainian government. And that's coming from a Ghanaian. And so we're looking at opportunities that Ghanaians could relatively make out of NFTs. There are lots of people that are selling music. Osibise's music could be on NFT and could raise as huge as money. Kenaisa Best Craft. All of these things can actually be sold on NFTs, and we could be making some good money from them.
Henry Kobler, as always, grateful that you could join me for a discussion on NFTs. We're going to be doing the same next week, Wednesday as well, on Money Lab, and on Friday as well. Please be with us. But of course, let's now have an episode of Money Lab where we help you appreciate how best you could spend and invest your money.
Good day to you. Thanks for joining us again on the Money Lab. We looked at operational risk in our previous session. Today we'll look at liquidity risk. Now, liquidity risk has to do with the ability to quickly convert securities to cash to meet certain obligations. Now, a security is deemed to be very liquid if it can be easily and quickly converted to cash. And called illiquid if it is not so to easily convert to cash.
That'll be all for the marketplace. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. I'm Charles Aite. Many thanks for watching.